Hello, Nicholas.
What's going on, guys? Great to be back on with you.
Great to have you back. Normally, it's football season only, but I feel like you ought to be on all the time. I mean, I want all Nick all the time.
Well, you have my number. You can call me anytime, and I'm ready to go because I was telling my wife, normally I have to wake up and catch up on highlights and stuff from the night before. I was on last night, so I did a national 7 to 9 show, p.m. Eastern last night on the tournament, right after Selection Sunday show went off the air on CBS. So I'm ready to go, guys. Let's get it.
Strategy-wise, how do you go about betting the big dance?
Well, I think, that's a loaded question. I guess, there are certain styles of teams that I try to avoid, and we've talked about these teams over the years on You Bet or You Bet. There's, and I'll just give two of them here. There's the team that plays really well, like way over its skis in the last month of the season, and then there's the team that absolutely falls on its face during the last month of the season. And history has kind of borne out that those teams, not 100% of the time, but for the most part, those teams do not have a ton of success in the NCAA tournament. So I'm going to give you a team right now, and they did not win their conference tournament. So it's not like a full-on, normally you'd like to see a team win its conference tournament, go into the tournament with a ton of momentum. But Michigan State, for me, is a team that kind of fits, falls under this umbrella. A team that was good up until the middle of February and then played much better than that over the last month of the season. BYU is a team like that. I bet VCU last night at open plus 3.5. That number's 2.5 now. Not that BYU can't win, but I think BYU is definitely the type of team that I like to fade. North Carolina is on this list also, by the way. Now that Carolina's in the tournament, I think Carolina's going to get a lot of love in their first round game coming up against San Diego State midweek this week. I'll be on the Aztecs. I'm looking to get a +4 there. So that's just one way, Greg, that I like to bet the tournament. A lot of different strategies can be applied.
Nick, I think I'm going to go Duke all the way with this one, but people are worried about Cooper Flagg and his ankle injury. They're expected for him to play full strength on Friday. Is that injury affecting the way in which people are going to bet?
It shouldn't. I don't think he should play on Friday. Save him for either Mississippi State or Baylor. But just to be clear here, let's say Cooper Flagg doesn't play this weekend. I think Duke beats the 16 seed, and then either Mississippi State or Baylor. I don't think Duke needs Cooper Flagg to get to next weekend. Courtney, I've been saying it since November on my show, You Bet or You Bet, which people can watch on Peacock now. Just want to say that again. Which is really awesome, right? 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah.
I think Duke's winning the title. Duke lost a couple games early in the season where Cooper Flagg at the ends of games turned the ball over. People say, oh, my God, well, everyone said Cooper Flagg was going to be so great. Well, he's going to be the number 1 overall pick in the draft. He's like a generational prospect. And that happened in November. And since then, they win every game basically by 25 points. And people want to say, oh, well, look at the competition they play. It's not enough for people that Duke wins every game by 20 points. You have to win by 50, I guess, to impress people. I'm not guaranteeing that they're going to win. I love the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. They got railroaded by Philadelphia. That sucked. But I'll be consistent. I've loved Duke since November. Duke is my pick to win the national championship.
All right, Nick, let's get into the juice here. Let's keep it a buck. You brought up Michigan State. They're playing one of the local teams that we have in Bryant. Where do I put my money when it comes to picking the upset? Because that's the way you're going to really win your money. Who's the sleeper team that has the best chance of upset in one of these top seeds?
So I'll give you VCU. VCU is the 11 seed in the East region. That's the Duke region. VCU is going to play BYU. So BYU is kind of like an electric offensive team. They beat Iowa State in the Big 12 tournament 96-92 at the end of last week before getting stuffed into a locker by Houston, like many teams do. But BYU had this amazing run to the end of the regular season, and I think they're kind of going to fall on their faces here. Now, VCU won the Atlantic 10, and people will say, oh, the Atlantic 10, not really that great of a conference. VCU is a buzzsaw in that conference all season. The betting market, the initial move, Wiggy, has been towards the 11 seed VCU. I agree with that. So, again, last night at Open, I took the points with VCU. That's now moved down to 2.5. I think VCU is going to win the game outright. I'll actually give – how about this one?
I need a good one because that's only plus 120. That doesn't get me nothing.
Okay. So you want like a bigger one?
Yeah, I need something that I can go in the strip club and really make it rain.
What kind of strip club are you going to?
Let's say Magic City, one everybody knows.
Because I used to, when I lived in, okay.
Good. You lived where?
When I lived in South Florida,
all right,
everything was a lot cheaper there, so you could make it rain with like no money, basically, which is great.
Well, KOD's then in South Florida. How's that?
Oh man, I actually got shoulder rubs on the second floor of Tootsie's. That actually happened.
Jeez, I hope you.
Me and Drake.
I hope Mrs. Kostos doesn't know about that.
This is pre Mrs. Kostos.
Okay.
Him and Drake too. That's a name drop.
Drake was not there for the record.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Drake was not there. You know what? There's so many jokes. How about this one? Let's go 4-13 in the South region. Texas A&M against Yale. Yale last year beat Auburn in the first round of the tournament, and A&M is a good team. The problem with A&M is that it can't score and can go on these long scoring droughts. So I'm definitely taking the points with Yale. I would not be surprised if Yale pulled the outright upset. I want to give you two really trendy, at least 2 5-12 matchups that I think are really interesting, where I like the favorite in one, the underdog in another. So if we go to the South region, this is the Auburn region. Michigan is the 5 playing the 12 UC San Diego. Now, UC San Diego is like the better's darling. So when this matchup came up last night, everyone loves the Tritons. That's their nickname, apparently. Whatever. Everyone loves UC San Diego. I'm on the other side of this here. I like Michigan a lot. I think if you like Michigan, you can wait. And you'll be able to get a better price with Michigan if you want to bet Michigan in the first round. And then if we go down to the West region in the 5-12 matchup there, now Memphis is going to be without one of its better players here. It's point guard. Colorado State is the 12 seed, and Colorado State's favored in the game. So this is a 12 favored over a 5. Colorado State about a 3-point favorite in this game. Colorado State closed the year with 10 straight wins in the Mountain West and won the Mountain West tournament. Memphis is not great as a big favorite, but in small spread games has been nails all season. I'm going to be betting Memphis coming up later this week. Memphis plus the points in the 5-12 matchup in the West region.
Wiggy's working a 32-leg parlay currently, so if you could just help him along.
Yeah, he'll bet $100 on that and lose $100. It'll be great.
Nick, when it comes to women, do you see South Carolina being able to?
That's a great start to the question.
Do you think that South Carolina can repeat?
If I had to bet the women's tournament, I would bet UConn.
Okay.
Let me see what the odds are here. I think Paige Beckers has kind of shown herself to be the best player in the country this season. I know Juju Watkins is awesome for USC. So USC's plus 550, UCLA plus 500. So UConn is plus 275, the second choice on the board. And UConn has been great down the stretch of the season. I would actually, and I'm not trying to paint myself as a women's college basketball expert. I am not. But from the little that I do know, UConn would be my choice this year. They got to the Final Four last year. We remember how that game ended, right, in the national semifinal against Iowa, where the referees kind of boned them at the end of the game with a terrible call coming out of an inbound with UConn potentially winning the game. I would say that UConn, Gino, and Paige Beckers get it this year. UConn plus 275 would be my women's bet.
Yeah, that moving screen, that one did nothing.
Terrible call.
So Nick, when you just look at the NCAA, I think people try to figure out their brackets. How does it usually go to the 1 and 2 seeds that end up kind of like, what they say, going chalk when it comes to college basketball, especially this year?
So I think, generally we will see the 1s and 2s do well, but, it's only happened once in the history of the NCAA tournament where all 4 1 seeds have made the Final Four, and that was back in 2008. Now, Wiggy, I've been saying all year that I think this is going to be a chalky NCAA tournament. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to have Auburn in the Final Four out of the South. Auburn's the number 1 overall seed in the tournament. It is worth noting Auburn lost 3 of its Final Four games coming into the tournament, but based on just an unbelievable body of work prior to that, Auburn was the number 1 overall seed. I don't love most of the teams in that region besides for Auburn. Michigan State's the 2. I'm down on Sparty right now, so I'm going to have Auburn. I will almost certainly have Florida, which is the 1 seed in the West region. I think Duke's going to win the whole thing, so I'll have Duke in the East. So I've got 3 1s right now. And yes, I understand that's chalky. I have also been saying for months now that I think this is going to be a top-heavy NCAA tournament. Now, the problem comes in the Midwest region, right, which is the Houston region. Houston is the number 1 seed there. Houston has been one of the 3 best teams in the country all season. Houston's awesome, and I think we know, right, because we watch the tournament every year. The problem with Houston has been They get into the tournament every year, and they have one of these games where they can't hit water if they fall out of a boat, and they lose, 60-45. It happens every year, and it has people scared off of Houston. The difference with Houston this year is that they're a really good three-point shooting team, and I kind of felt that was going to be what got Houston over the hump this year. But kind of like the old story with Houston now, one of its best players is injured in the tournament, their big man, Juwan Roberts, which is going to create a really interesting potential second-round matchup. Again, this is the Midwest region. The 8-9 there is Gonzaga against Georgia. Gonzaga is one of the most misseeded teams in NCAA tournament history. Now, I'm not going to get like real nerd analytics with people here, but Ken Pomeroy is the guy that created website KenPom, if you hear people say it. It basically judges teams based on like a big statistical profile.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be right, but people swear by it. Gonzaga is the 9th ranked team in KenPom this season. Now, lost a bunch of games in big spots to good teams, lost twice in the regular season to St. Mary's, did beat St. Mary's in the West Coast Conference Championship game. The Zags are an 8 seed, so Gonzaga's way better than an 8. So if we get Houston and Gonzaga in the second round, Gonzaga's a 6.5-point favorite against Georgia, a good SEC team. So the Zags are favored to come out of that matchup. Gonzaga against Houston would be an absolute banger. And just to show people what I mean by that, if you look at the odds to win that region, Gonzaga is the 3rd choice on the board. Houston's first. Tennessee, the 2 seed, is second. So if Houston is able to get past Gonzaga, which is not going to be a lock, Houston's going to be without its best big man in that game, then I think we're staring down the barrel of Houston, Tennessee in the Elite Eight. But if you like Gonzaga in that game, I think that is the region, the Midwest region, where things could get really funky.
Okay, Nick. Well, according to the NCAA website, there has never been a perfect bracket.
Really?
Never.
Wow.
So
that's why Warren Buffett says you'll give like $1 billion to whoever gets a perfect bracket. That fraud.
Never been a verifiable one. I think the farthest anybody ever got was 49 consecutive games.
That's really good.
In 2019.
Really, that is
really
good.
And that's why you wager it.
Yep.
Anything can happen.
Well, it's looks like a top-heavy tourney this year.
Yeah. All right, Nick, it's great to talk to you. I miss you when it's not football season, so.
Greg, you call me anytime, man.
I know.
Do you?
I don't want to push it. I mean, I know you're busy. You got shows on television, radio.
He's a TV star.
Podcasts.
Courtney, can you say that one more time?
Yeah, he's a TV star. So
it's factually correct.
Yeah.
He's on Peacock there.
Streaming's the way to go,
money.
too. I mean, damn.
Damn, we can't even get on Peacock around here.
Well, Wiggy, you ask Nick. He'll help you. He can
Nick, hook us up.
He has an
I will not. I'm very worried about myself. I don't have time for anybody else.
At least you're honest.
Thank you, Nick. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, wishing everybody minimal sweats, winning bets. The absolute very best of luck. Peace.
All right, host of You Better You Bet, Odyssey Sports Betting Insider, Nick Kostos.